Welcome to
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose is a podcast of inspiring people whose stories help you see things differently, live with intentionality, elevate the way you participate in the world, and take the necessary leaps in your life to seek and find your passions. Come with us and develop the courage to wholeheartedly pursue your purpose and unleash your truest potential. Hello, Shelby Friesen. Welcome to People of Purpose podcast. We got my good friend and co-founder of my real estate business, Philip Loudon, here with us. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. I'm happy to be here.
Cool. Well, I wanted to kind of give you guys some space to tell the audience kind of how you guys met and how you know each other, and maybe why Phil recruited Shelby for the podcast.
Cool. Yeah, so I guess I can speak. Shelby and I met at a mastermind event called Baby Bathwater in Croatia. It was, I'm not sure how many people attend, like over 100.
I think about 200 the second years.
Yeah, just like really incredible, high achieving, purpose driven individuals. It was the first event I ever went to like that, and it was a place where I met like tons of like lifelong friends in one location. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, man, it was awesome. It was a great place to meet. I'm still in touch with pretty much everybody from it that we were talked to there.
Yeah, and then after that, Shelby and I kept in contact. Shelby at one point did a journaling challenge where he basically said that he's going to journal every day for 30 days and do an email list from that. And if he missed any day, he would pay people like I think it was like per person. And I saw that, I felt really inspired. So I also followed this journaling challenge, and I created an email list. I got like, I think like 50 or 60 people on there. And I said, if I missed any day, I would pay each of them a certain amount of money, and it helped me to this accountability structure where I wrote every single day. And through that experience, Shelby kind of coached me through it. And when I had questions, he was happy to answer. And I learned a bunch about copywriting, about writing captivating content, about getting my thoughts into concise, short tidbits to share on emails in a way that was interesting for the people reading it. And I absolutely love that exercise. That helped me to kind of encapsulate a bunch of lessons from my previous 5 years of travel into these individual segments. That was super cool also.
Yeah, man, that was sweet. I totally forgot I did that. So many little things.
Cool. Yeah, I love to hear that, like, the relationships stay alive after some like transformational event. Being able to stay in contact with people and having that kind of impact like you did on Phil. It's just and it's such an example. We never know like how the ripples of like what we set out to do, how they'll impact and affect others. Phil definitely saw you as a mentor, a guiding star in some way with that.
Yeah, Shelby started that, and I loved it. So I was like, I'm going to do this. And I talked to Shelby. He got on a call with me, and then from me doing it, other people did it as well. So it creates these ripples. It creates these like ripples of inspiration, and I'm going to keep those emails forever because I really was able to just get a lot of thoughts and ideas and memories from my travels and from life in general. Because when you're writing every day, you have to figure out what's most present for me right now, what's coming up in a natural way, and then how can I turn that to face an audience in a way that's going to be like not super boring for them to read.
Yeah, 100%. And I actually got that from Ian Stanley, who was from Baby Bathwater as well. So he had talked about how he did it like years ago, and I was like, oh, it's such a good idea. Like, I'm going to try it. So it made its way through a lot of people.
Yes.
Did it create any clarity for you, Shelby?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was, I started doing that just at the beginning of COVID. I started taking a bunch of Ian's courses. He's got a lot of copywriting and stuff like that. So I was like, man, I don't know. I'll just try this shit, figure it out, learn some stuff. And it was really cool. Like helped me, same thing Phil's saying, just get clear and share in a way that just like is easy for people to read. It doesn't have to be, the whole concept of writing that way is you don't have to talk like a doctor or use crazy words or all of that. It's just really simplifying stuff to like a grade 2 level or 3 level where it's simple to read and just engaging for the audience. So yeah, it was awesome. It was really cool. And people really liked it. I was surprised. I'm like, who really wants to hear about my shit that I'm doing every day? And clearly it was useful for a lot of people. So I think it's also cool to just know how important it is to share the real. I think that's the other part of it is like what you are sharing. I was sharing just the real stuff about what I was doing each day or trying or what was going good or bad or whatever it was. Whereas people nowadays are used to the type of sharing that's on current social platforms, which is like, I don't even know what you would call it, but it's far from real.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you were sharing like the good and like the not so great stuff and some of your little mental blocks and hangups and just kind of everything, right?
Yeah, it was really mainly about kind of, be my thoughts, stuff I'm thinking about. I think that's just kind of why it was interesting to people. I mean, a lot of myself was pushing boundaries, like what I was doing to push myself mentally and physically, whether it was running or biking or cold showers or, how I would structure my day to be higher performing or get, the habits I was building, what I was eating. It was really that stuff, like what I was doing to make myself feel better. Yeah, it was really based around that. It wasn't so, I mean, there was some businessy stuff, but it was really based about like personal habits versus like, like business content per se.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess like one thing I see in your story that that you shared is that you've always been searching for truth. You want to know more about why things are the way they are, and you really want to question that. I want to know kind of how you came up with your purpose statement, which was searching for truth with a renegade mind.
Yeah, I mean, when I think back on my life, an overarching thing is just that I've always questioned things and have tried to find the truth or the why behind it. When somebody tells me something, I don't just believe it. I question it and kind of look around and go, okay, like, does this make sense? And not like, I don't know, now that I'm thinking about it, even like the true or false thing, like, is anything really true or false? Like maybe it just has to feel true to you. Like, does that feel right to you as a person? And that will always be different. Something that seems true to me may or may not seem true to you or somebody else. So, really just finding like what felt right for me when I was young. I really started to notice that like certain things, I'm like, man, this just like, I don't feel like this is right or like right for me. It's just because somebody else is doing it. And the Renegade Mind aspect, honestly, that's from David Icke's book. His book's called Renegade Mind, and it's really about, I mean, it's conspiracy shit, which I love. But the concept of it is just like, I feel like when I was young as well, I had a lot of freedom where I grew up with my brother and I, my dad, our mom. Our parents split up when we were pretty young, so I grew up in a house with just 3 dudes, basically me, my brother, and my dad. And I remember back in the day, like so many kids would have to like ask their parents, like, "Hey, can I come over? Like, can I go to this person's house tonight? Am I allowed to have a sleepover?" Like, so all these things were like, my dad didn't give a shit. He just was like, do whatever you want. I'll give you a cell phone, and that way I can just call you when I need to. And like, we would go to friends' houses and we'd be there for like 3 days, and the parents would be like, hey, like, are you sure your dad knows you're here? Like, is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, I don't think he gives a shit. He hasn't called or anything. Like, it should be fine. And we had like all these freedoms where we were kind of allowed to do whatever and just really think for ourselves. Like, my dad wasn't trying to tell me what I could and couldn't do all the time. So it really like made us think for ourselves and like feel it out. And I started to look at other families and just be like, man, like, why are they being so weird and like doing stuff like whatever it was? And I just feel like it gave me the freedom to think for myself and think outside the box and not just follow along what everyone else was doing. And I think that's where the renegade aspect fits in. It's like you're really just breaking away from what everyone else is doing and kind of like you know, like to me when I was young, even I was like looking from the outside in. Like it was like I was looking at all these other people doing all the same stuff and thinking like, okay, I mean, like I get it, you can do that, but there's also so much other stuff that you can do, and that's just kind of built up through the years and the years going on.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yes, that's cool. Something I'm really impressed with by Shelby is I do notice that your creations are very, very unique in nature, and it seems like you're not following any sort of path that's laid out in front of you. I mean, maybe we can get into this later, but that's something I noticed also with your current project, Azhen Sanctuary. I see that you created this thing that not many people have done before, and then you also create a course kind of around it to help people to learn about what you did. So I see the remnants of that renegade mind within what you're creating for sure.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really curious about so if you grew up like that and you had that freedom, was life like really fulfilling as like a child and a teen, or did you feel like something was missing?
Oh man. That's a tough question. I think there's just so many aspects when I was young. You know, certain things were fulfilling. So we weren't rich, we weren't poor. I'd say we were like my dad did well for himself. He was an electrician and had his own business, and at one point had a bunch of employees and stuff. So I mean, you know, we had dirt bikes. He bought a house on a lake about 3 hours from our hometown, and we had a boat. And what else? I mean, we kind of we played hockey. We did all the shit, you know, and had more than most kids. But I started to build, like, those things kind of fulfilled me. Like, you know, I was good at dirt biking. I loved stuff with engines, and like those things made me feel good. But then but there was other things that left me kind of unfulfilled, like maybe in the family aspect, like with the father-son relationship. In that respect, it was really based around like always kind of looking for his approval in the way too. Although he did give us a lot of freedom, there was a lot of like a big thing in our family is like not being good enough. It's just this common seems common between like my uncles and other cousins and stuff. It's always like, you know, you wouldn't do it like that, would you? You wouldn't. Why are you doing it like this? Why are you doing that? It's like a lot of, and I think that's maybe a reason that I ask those questions so many times, is like I was always being harped on for that stuff too. Although I could like go and do things freely, I would be kind of questioned about stuff as well. So it was a weird mix between like freedom, but also trying to get that what would you call it? Just maybe not acceptance, but just kind of like you want to just have that I don't know the word for it, but basically
Validation.
Yeah, validation kind of thing, like from my dad, I guess. But yeah, and I did follow, like when I was young too, I followed along quite a bit with what, so like job wise was always a really big thing in our family. That was like, you need to get a trade, you need to do this, you need to do that. But outside of the job, nobody really cared. It's like before, when I was talking about freedom with friends and doing all that, it was whatever, do what you want. But when it came down to jobs in high school, when I was getting ready to graduate, that's when it was like, you need to do this, you need to do that, these are all the things. And I was like, oh shit, okay, well, like I guess this is where I assumed like older people know. It's like, okay, yeah, well, my dad's 50 or 45 or whatever at that time. I'm like, well, obviously he knows what the best thing to do is. And looking back on that now, I just think, holy shit, like that is a terrible thing to think. But you kind of assume that when you're young, right? And I was like, okay, so I actually did like everything they wanted to do. So job wise, like when I was young, I mean, I don't know, how do you really know if you're fulfilled back then anyways? Like I was just kind of having fun, not really thinking about much. I didn't really think about fulfillment. I thought about just like getting a job and riding my dirt bike pretty much. But then, yeah, I kind of did everything they wanted me to do. It was like, go to school, get a trade, become a welder, do all this stuff. And I did it, and then just realized like, man, I'm not going to live my life like this. I'm going to come to a job for like $20 an hour and then come home and just like eat and go to bed and like never be able to afford anything. What I hated was the ability to say, this is what my paycheck is, and then I could calculate that for the rest of my life. I was like, that is a terrible feeling. And not for everybody, maybe, but for me, I was just like, it just seemed really limiting. I was like, is everybody just okay with this? That like you pretty much have a job that you might make $2 an hour more, and you can just like punch that into a calculator and basically plan your entire life of what you can't do, basically. I was like, man, that's so that's when it really started for me, when I was like, hey, I gotta like break out of this and find something that gives me real freedom outside of, you know, it's not just the 8-hour workday. I mean, it's everything that limits you to as well, with like your ability to scale your life up in any respect.
Yeah. I gotcha. So you were basically trying to find, I guess, financial freedom without even labeling it like that from a pretty young age. What did you go about doing at that time of your life to try to figure that out?
I mean, it really just started with I hated being at jobs where they were like, hey man, like you have to take lunch at 12. It was just basic shit like that, where I was like, man, yeah, whatever, I'm only making $25 an hour, and you're gonna tell me I can't go have lunch when I want to have lunch. Like, it was just basic stuff where I started to realize, like, hey, like, if all I could do is go for lunch, I'd be so happy if I could do that and not have to listen to anybody tell me or hear a buzzer again. I remember my brother and I, we started one of our first companies together. It was a landscaping business, and this was way back, like right after high school. And we would drive around and just get like one job, go do it. And then, I mean, we focused quite short term, like, okay, whatever, let's just get a job, do it, and then we'll figure out what's going to happen tomorrow. We didn't worry too much about the next day or the next week. And we did one job, and we went to this local cafe. We literally had our last $20 bill, and we just sat down, spent all of it on a couple of coffees and desserts, and just laughed about it, and was, you know, okay, well, I guess we'll figure it out tomorrow. So we also had a different relationship with money, where we weren't worried about not being able to make it, which I see as a huge thing in people. They have their jobs, I don't think they're scared to leave their job, but they're scared that they don't know how to make any more money. So for us, we weren't worried about it. We go, well, worst case, all we have to do is get another one of these jobs and make some more money tomorrow. So we started by just starting really random businesses. And basically my whole thing was, my worst case scenario, I just get a job. Best case scenario, I start random businesses and one will eventually work. And since the day that we decided that, neither of us have had a job. So that was probably, I mean, I think it's been like nine years. My last job was early, probably when I was 20. Yeah, I'm 29 now. So I would say it's been about 9 years, and it's pretty crazy to look back on and think about, because in the time you don't think it'll ever work. And then we just kept scaling up and doing different businesses, trying new things. And I basically went through, the landscaping company never really took off. It was just a random thing we did for a couple of weeks in the summer, and then realized we don't like working in the rain. So we stopped doing that. And then I did a drone company that we bought. That's when drones first came out. We started an aerial film company. That was, I did with a friend, did it for a year and a half, never really took off, but was decent enough. Started an automotive business, went through that, and then eventually got to where we are now with our off-grid property.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah, one thing to like point that really sticks out to me is how you said, like, seeing the paychecks, being able to measure your life based off the paychecks, seeing everything so just like easy in front of you. That's exactly how I felt, and that's exactly what started me on my own journey, like towards entrepreneurship. And I've never heard anyone actually state in that way. That's like the exact thing that was going on within me, just seeing like this is way too obvious and like planned, and like I can see exactly where this will lead. So I think it's cool that you experienced that also. Yeah, and another thing is like you mentioned to me before about you and your brother's relationship with money, and like you guys seem to have this this lack of fear around money, like where you said you spend your last $20 on a cafe and just figure out what's next. I think that's really admirable as well. Like I think that's a really interesting mindset you guys have around money. Thanks, man. Yeah, I think I heard do you guys follow Alex Hormozy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I've been like into his stuff a lot lately. And he posted something basically saying that most people's, another thing for me on the money was the saving. Everyone was like, well, you gotta save more. And I'm like, dude, I'm barely making any money. Like, how am I supposed to save this shit? Like, what do you want me to do? Sit in my room all day and do nothing and just put pennies in the bank? Like, so his big thing was saying that, everyone's focus is on saving money instead of just making more money. And that's kind of what we always came back to, is like, why would I try and save and do less when you could just keep investing in yourself and making more, focus on making more in a better life versus trying to save.
Yeah, exactly. I love that you're into Alex Hormozi. Yeah, he's been shaping a lot of our business here the last, I would say 9-12 months since he started his YouTube channel. Phil found him really early on.
Yeah, man, that shit's awesome. I've been following him for a while, and his wife there, and like their content is so good. I was like, man, like it's been super helpful. We're getting into the sales and stuff now too, so I'm using a lot of their stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really curious what happened along the way when you were 21. Can you share kind of how things went from like, hey, we're finding some freedom, I'm at a cafe celebrating with my brother, to like, you can't do anything for a year straight? What happened?
Yeah, man. So I guess another thing that kind of, this ties into the young age freedom thing, where I kind of had the walkabout to do what I wanted. Food wise, in our house of three dudes growing up, it was a little bit like, a lot of canned stuff. It's not that we ate bad food, but my dad would just do loads to Costco, and for the most part, we would just eat what's easy. Like, so, and I don't know when this became an addiction, but man, I loved sugar. Like when I was young, I would spend every last penny. My dad had these change bins. I would come home from school. He was never home because he also had his own business. So we would be home after school by ourselves, and we knew we had these ice cream buckets full of change. So we'd rip into his room, dig it out from under the drawer, go down to the corner store, buy $10 worth of candy, then go. We had a berry farm close to us. They made milkshakes, pies, all this shit. So we would like go there every day after school and probably spend $15. And that's quite a bit for one kid to consume in sugar. We would do that on a daily basis. And then at school as well, I would just buy like milk to go, Mars bars, Skittles, like all this shit. And I didn't think much of it because the way my family portrayed it was that if you were skinny, you were healthy. And for me, I've never changed. My body weight, as like when I was young, I could eat McDonald's, Tim Hortons, cheesecake. Like I ate cheesecake for lunch, pie for breakfast, milkshake for dinner. Like that's all I had.
Oh my God.
and from that until like I did a half Ironman 2 years ago, I was running like 10K a day, biking 30, like doing lots of exercise, same size. Like never has my body really fluctuated more than like 10 pounds in my 20s. Didn't matter what I was doing for working out or what I eat. So I had this like thought of, I'm healthy. It doesn't matter. I'm a skinny guy. And it was just kind of a running joke. Like my buddies would be like, dude, you're going to get diabetes and like all this shit. And I'm like, no, I'm good. If I get fat, I'll go get checked out. And I didn't really realize what was happening. And that's when I was young. And then when you mix in the drinking and the partying, that's just a whole cycle it creates, right? Like it's that whole addiction cycle that everything that is pretty much promoted as stuff people eat, in my opinion, gives you that. You go and have burger and fries, same feeling that you get after you have a drink or after you have something full of sugar. Like it all feeds itself. So when I was 21, pretty sure it was my 21st or 22nd birthday, and I knew I wasn't feeling good. I just never really thought too much of it. Like at those points, I would drink Friday and Saturday, and I would be like fucked up till like Thursday, like 4 days. It would take me a full day to like get unhungover, almost 2 days to get like, I would lay in bed all day Sunday, get up Sunday night, have like go for pho or something, and then go to bed and be like decently okay by Monday night. So I'd have like a full on 2 day hangover, and then I'd start feeling half decent by Thursday. Then Friday I'd get pissed again. And then I was in this cycle for quite a while, as well as just eating terrible shit all day. Yeah, I didn't really think a lot of it. And then all of a sudden I went out, drank 3 nights in a row. It was my birthday week. And I remember the third night, like I could barely even get drunk. Like I was drinking. I'm like, man, I can't even feel what this is doing. After like 12, finally kind of started to feel a bit drunk, but I didn't feel I didn't even like that night. I went home and I was like, oh, what a waste. Like I shouldn't have even spent that money or drank really. And then I woke up in the morning and it was just this feeling that I've never even had before. Like the only way I can explain it is that like it just felt like my brain was like gone or like mush. Like I woke up, I couldn't feel anything. Like, there's no emotion. I tried to like normally my thing would be I'll just watch a funny movie or something on my hangover days and like try and feel a bit better. And like I just sat there like a straight up zombie. I was like, dude, I can't even laugh. This shit's not funny. I can't cry. I can't do anything. And I was supposed to be my family birthday dinner that night. I just texted him and I was like, dude, I can't fucking move. Like, there's no way. And then I was having like crazy panic attacks. Like, I would start realizing I was getting anxiety when I would drink, like in hangovers. I thought it was just a bad hangover. And then someone like was like, no, dude, I think you're having like anxiety. I remember having my first panic attack in this restaurant we'd always go to. I was like, okay, like this is fucked. So when I woke up from that, I was basically in like a constant panic attack, like all day. Like there was not, I would try and walk to the corner store and I would just be shaking like uncontrollably. I was like, man, I don't even know what to do. So I basically laid in bed for like a week straight and was like, I don't even know where to begin with this or what to do. And it ended up like I started going to the doctor and he's like, dude, you're fine. You can just try and get a bit of exercise and take some Ativan. And I was like, no, man, like something's fucked. Like I can feel this. Like there's no way I'm just gonna take a pill and be okay. And it got just worse. So like I laid there for basically 3 months. My brother would like drag my ass into the car and drive me down to the doctor, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, man, I don't know, dude. I think like I did every test. Like I had heart monitors. They thought I had diabetes. I did like everything. Like I was doing so many tests every week, and every single test was coming back negative. Like, no, man, you're good. You're good. There's nothing wrong. You're good. And I was like, no way. Like this is impossible. Like at this point, I was hoping that I was having a, like I would have been happy if I knew I was having a heart attack because at least it would be something. Like when they told me that it was testing me for diabetes, I was literally happy because I was like, I hope I have this shit, so at least I can do something to get better. Because being in being like having no answer is like, what are you working towards? You're just sitting there like, I'm fucking dying and I have no clue. So that was another thing that really clicked for me, that I thought all these people would just fix me. I was like, oh, dude, doctors know this shit. Like kind of like what I mentioned earlier, was like, oh, my dad knows what's best for work. I just assume all these people know shit. Well, they don't know fucking anything. It's just a guessing game. And they're like, you know, there's nothing there. So it took about, I had to take an entire year off. At this point, I was running my automotive business with a partner. I couldn't work for a year. Like after 3 months, it was New Year's Eve, and I said, you know what, I'll give this one last shot, and I'll try going to a naturopath or any alternative thing outside of the medical system. I don't care how much I have to pay. So I had a $15,000 student credit line. I spent all of it at the naturopath and other like alternative healing places. And then my grandpa had snuck his credit card onto a few places because he knew how much I was spending. So in total, I think we spent about $50,000 in a year and a half on like naturopath energy readings, energy healings, Reiki stuff, nutritionists, like literally everything. I was like, at this point, I don't care. I'll just try a bunch of stuff. And I remember going to my first naturopath appointment being like, this is the first time. He basically said that, well, you know, what you eat kind of like affects your gut and your brain. And I was like, no, man, I've literally never heard that in my entire life. Like how, and then after going through this shit, I'm like, how have I never heard this? Like, how has nobody ever fucking mentioned that that is important? And to me, it just blew my mind that after 22 years of being on this planet, no one told me that eating food would affect how I feel. Like I just literally never connected that food and the way you feel is a thing until I was 22 years old. And that just like blew my mind open, where I was like, something's seriously wrong. And that's when I really started diving into like the systems. And I did a bunch of trainings through like people who do cancer reversing through like natural eating and all stuff like that. I just like started blasting through all these programs. I was like, man, I got to learn about this stuff. And that's when I started the podcast too, because I really wanted to talk about it. And I just thought it was so important. I was like, this seems like the most important thing in the world, because look how many people are sick and they just don't know. To me, it was like, how many people are just blowing through life on all these lies that they no one's telling them. To me, what is the truth? Like, that stuff does affect you, but that's not anywhere. Why isn't that in schools? Like, to me, it's such a basic thing that's being hidden from people so blatantly. It just like for a long time, I was just really mad too. Like, I couldn't even believe it. Like, I would go out to restaurants and just be pissed. I was like, I'll burn down every one of these restaurants because they're literally just killing people. And even the restaurant owners, they don't even know. It's like, yeah, you're selling people burger and fries. Well, like, cool, let's just give everybody cancer. Like, I would get so extreme about it and be upset. But I mean, I've toned down a bit and just want to figure out my own ways to help, right? But yeah, and I mean, long story short, it took me about 2 years to really like get back to myself. It was the longest shit I've ever done, and I've always said, like, if I had to do it again, I probably would just die. Like, I think it would be easier. I was like, I'll give this one shot, but if I ever end up like that again, I don't think I could do it twice. Like, it was so slow and so hard. In those 2 years, it felt like an entire lifetime. Like, I swear I lived the whole life just to get through that. It was pretty crazy.
Wow. So
Yeah.
so since then, it sounds like what you've gotten really focused on is like being a whole food nutritionist, and then putting together like this Azhen Sanctuary. Are those kind of like directly correlated to this experience, or was there a bit of time in between?
Um, there was definitely time in between. Like, I came back from it. I was feeling pretty good. I kept running my automotive business for 2 years, did a bunch of cool shit with it, but then just ultimately realized, like, I don't care about this stuff. That's when the podcast came in, had a tough time figuring out how to make any money with it. I was just like, I tried selling some little courses, food-based stuff, and putting things together, but I just realized ultimately it's hard to sell that. Like, people don't really want to. I saw the whole market as it being too sale, not even like salesy, but how many people are trying to sell diets and sell this and sell that? Like, I just didn't see a really like good path there. I was like, I don't really vibe with this style, and I don't really also want to be competing or trying to compete in this space. It just seems so blown over. So yeah, the food though is a big part of this. Basically, I'd sold off that automotive business, and my brother, his business had exited that as well. And I do want to mention that we didn't have a ton of money from this. We did start this project that we're on now basically with no money. And that's kind of what we're helping people with as well. But anyways, it just seemed like this project kind of fit everything. I mean, for me, the food is a huge thing. And I wanted to go beyond just like getting food in grocery stores. I wanted to see, like, what does it take to grow food, and how does that food compare to food you are buying in the grocery store? Because you see a lot of research or things people say, oh, you know, food nowadays is 40% of the nutrients it used to. Well, how do I know that? Like, I haven't seen an actual study and stuff. So I wanted to actually start like digging into that stuff. Like, let's grow some food and see what happens. Like, how do we feel if we actually grow our own food versus, you know, just buying organic food that might not even be organic. So really like getting to dig deeper into some of the things like that. And then also just felt like we had a really good skill set to build something unique. Like, growing up, I had worked for my uncle's data high-end home company in Whistler. So we would work on like $5 to $30 million homes. I've got a huge construction background, all of that kind of stuff, mechanics, welding, business, online stuff, email marketing, like, and then my brother's more heavy into the business and ad-based stuff and funnels and kind of all of that thing. So, and we both have construction experience as well. He was more in the wood framing and like house, like more framing style stuff, and electrical as well. So we kind of had like everything each other was missing to build this place. And we both had free time. So we were like, well, we got nothing else going on. Let's just see if we can go out to this 160 acres and make something out of nothing, because there was nothing there. It was basically a barren piece of land. And yeah, that's really kind of what started it. And for both of us, it was like, we knew we didn't want to live the way we were. Like, you know, even though we had those freedoms and, you know, my company before was doing really good, but it still just wasn't it. I was like, I'm not really creating anything useful for people. And I wanted to really create something that could showcase what we believed a healthy life was. And the whole concept from the beginning was like, it's not really tricking people, but like, how can you get people to come to this place and leave with something that will make their life better or make them implement something new? So our first idea was that people would come for Airbnb and we would have all these informative things around. There'd be like the Berkey water filters inside that we use with like a plaque like showing why we use those things, and they could walk around the land and there'd all be all these things about why and what, and the food we would serve would only be healthy food, but it would give them an idea of like, oh, you can actually eat really tasty food. And the idea was that they would leave after 2 days or 3 days and feel much different versus like, I feel like most people, they go away and they kind of like, oh yeah, let's go rent a hotel and get pissed up for 2 days. And like, they usually leave feeling worse than when they got there. They're excited to get there. They do all these things. And when they leave, they feel like shit going back to work. Whereas like, we were hoping people would leave inspired and feel healthy and like ready to take on another week or to do the thing they really want to do, instead of the alcohol bringing them down and saying, oh, fuck, I'll just go back to my shitty job. They'll go, oh shit, I actually feel really good leaving this place. I wonder if I can like take something else on and do that. So that was the initial plan, was to kind of like take everything from our lives, not just food, but like our whole mindset, concept, and how you need to feel to create something great, and try and give that to people by coming to what we were creating.
I love that. Phil?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. I think that's awesome. Okay. Okay. So it sounds like the origins was just to come out there and basically create a space where, or I guess the vision was to create a space where people can come and be inspired and they can learn about these different things. You can have just like educational content around while people come out for some sort of getaway and go to an Airbnb. So that's the vision. And I'm curious about how you guys grounded that vision and actually started building this and actually started creating this.
So we were notoriously bad for having bad credit because we're not savers. The banks don't like us too much. So my brother, we owned a house and we had sold it years back, and my brother and a friend actually had the dream of homesteading on this property. So they pitched in, and my brother got his friend who was eligible to get a mortgage to do it, and then they split the monthly payment. So the original concept to actually get the land was just finding someone who was willing to do this or take part or wanted the same thing, and they took the mortgage on. He made the payments with him. So that's how the land he first got it. I wasn't a part of it then. I actually thought it was dumb as shit when he first bought it. and they said they were going to go live out there and stuff. I was like, yeah, you'll fucking never catch me out there, pal. Like I'm not doing that. So they had plans of homesteading there, him and his friend, and it was actually his friend who was planning on living there and homesteading, and Jamie was just like, yeah, I'll just like come and go kind of here and there. So he never even planned on living there. So the property, when they got it, was like 250 grand or something, and the mortgage payments were like $300 each a month. So basically, like, when you get a phone bill that went over, it's pretty much like a phone bill every month. So that was pretty cool. They just kept it. It was like, for the cost, why would I ever sell this place? So they had that for a few years, and then when him and I decided to go on this together, same thing. We had sold our businesses, but we didn't have a ton of cash. We were just sitting there like, well, we have the land. Let's see if we can make it work. So originally we had just hashed out a quick plan. Like, what do we want to do here? Let's look into Airbnb numbers, because we thought Airbnb would 100% be like the biggest revenue driver. Like, that's how we would make money. People would come out, they would pay to stay. We would hopefully get them to learn some stuff. And so we hashed out a quick plan and started calling around to some friends and family and just said, hey, like, we think we want to make a go of this. Like, are you guys down to kind of come in a little bit on it? So by just sharing our vision with friends and family and people like, acquaintances, business people around us, we got about 15 grand. I think just ran, people pitched anywhere from 500 to 2 grand and just said, yeah, here, let's see what you can do with it. So, I mean, clearly 15,000 isn't enough to build out a property. So we took that and we used that money to buy a few small things to get started and basically fund us getting a crowdfunding campaign going. So we used that to run an Indiegogo campaign. We drove around for about 2 to 3 weeks, shot footage, put a video together, really hashed it out. laid out what we would create with that. And then we ended up raising we also used some for ad budget as well, because we ran ads. We ran a giveaway ad that then sent them to a link to secure their purchase in the Indiegogo campaign. And that actually crushed. Like, it worked super good. So we ended up raising about 60,000, but also what had happened through that is CBC, a local news place, had done an article on us and basically framed us as a scam. So we thought, we were like so stoked, fired up, ads are working well. Like, yeah, this is sick. They want to do an article with us. And we thought it was gonna be like, yeah, like, let's hear what these guys want to create there. But the guy just, like, the first interview, I guess, Jamie did it. He just was like, well, you guys have nothing. There's nothing there. It's just the property and you don't actually have anything. You're kind of selling a scam and all this stuff. And we were like, dude, really? This guy wanted an interview to just shit on us? So that, like, really halted it. Like it was climbing. Like, we had about 65, 70,000 and it was like going up like fast. The Indiegogo campaign was. And it really halted after that. But I think that was a good in a way anyhow. But it was kind of hectic to deal with and something we really didn't see coming down the line, which also made it way harder to start. So imagine you have this crazy idea and then you want to do it, and then this like massive news place frames you as a scam. It was tough. We were both like pretty down. We were like, dude, fuck. Like, people would, like, everyone was talking about it. Like, it was on like everywhere. Kids from high school, we knew, like, everything. People were just like, even still today, people are like, oh, you guys are fucking scammers. I'm like, bro, we literally have a property with a place. But anyways, that's a side problem with crowdfunding campaign is like, I think a lot of people don't understand that you're selling an idea, not a thing. I'm not selling a product. I'm selling an idea of something we want to create. And you're at risk for that if you go in on it. So we had raised 60,000 with that. But the perk to the crowdfunding was we had some investors approach us. And that's kind of how it's always worked with crowdfunding for us. You get some guys who are really interested. You put your vision out there. That's what you have to do. You're always going to get shit on by somebody. So we ended up having an old acquaintance guy who was really interested. He came in and invested with us. And that's how we got the money to build it out. So my brother and I spent last year, it was just the two of us. So we basically, I mean, I don't care. I'll tell the numbers. We had a $200,000 investment. We took that, invested all into the land. Him and I built everything with our own hands. So we spent 7 months on the land last year. On day one, there was nothing there and we were making no money. We obviously had the investment cash. And on month 7, we had spent all the investment cash to get it running, but we were doing $30,000 a month in revenue through Airbnb and retreats, which is pretty good. I mean, you would invest that into a condo and get very, less than 10% of monthly rental fee. Obviously a lot more work, but as a real estate investment, I think it's really good up and coming thing. And then out of that, so we never really got around to the education aspect because it's a ton of work. Like, just to get those things up and running, then to build out the education thing was like, okay, this is so much. Like, how do we even do this? So what had happened was we actually, at the end of the year, we thought, maybe let's just try and run a course. Like, let's see, we'll just post like, hey, this is kind of what we've done in the past 7 months. Does anybody give a shit about learning this? And we were just going super low budget. If you want to come, e-transfer to this email. And we launched that and actually had 20 people e-transfer us overnight. And we were like, oh shit, like, we were only thinking we get like 5 people. So we ended up running 2 of these workshops because we had too many people sign up. And then that's kind of where we had our online course pouring out of. So we did this workshop and then we started laying out all the information, like, what are we going to teach these people? And we went through everything from like, we showed funding, how to structure your vision, because I think that's the most important thing. Like, there's so many people with ideas out there, but if you can't share that in a way that's inspiring to get other people to join in on your project, well, then it's never going to be a thing. And I don't think a lot of people believe that if you're going to do something great, you need money to start it. And I don't actually believe that. I think you totally just need to learn how to talk and share and plan, because there's more people than you think that are just going to give you a bunch of money that is meaningless to them. And I think an idea is more meaningful than money. So we kind of were like teaching people that and really trying to shift their mindset around, like, I had a call with a lady yesterday on the strategy call and I'm like, she's like, yeah, I just like don't. She's like, I've had this thing, I just don't know if I can do it. I don't think I can. I have no money, bad credit. I'm like, you do the same as me. Like, you just need to learn how to share. And like, she's like, well, I have like 15 people that want to host retreats already. Like, if I can do this place, and like, I'm like, okay, well, add that up. 15 people. If you say, hey, give me $3,000 for the retreat, and then I'll build this place out, and you get to have a retreat here. I'm like, well, what's 3 times 15? I'm like, you're already almost at, that's $50,000. I'm like, that's pretty decent. I'm like, you can totally start with that. So there's like all these concepts that people don't really think about. There's so many ways to get money, and you can crowdfund privately. You can reach out to anyone. So yeah, we had kind of gone through that, then built our online course that bridged out of that. And then this year we've just been kind of honing that in, where we were like, we just really weren't expecting it to take off, and it kind of did. So we've been really diving into the course. We spent all winter working on that, putting in all the information from working last year. And then this year we really focused on the workshop, building out more on the land. We got into farming and gardening and stuff this year, getting our permaculture plan in place. So that's been really cool. We'll actually be eating from our own land this year, and hopefully selling some of the extras and stuff as well. Got a little greenhouse going up. So last year's we focused on infrastructure, revenue driving stuff, which I would advise people to do first, because it's going to be a lot more work and harder to make money by selling lettuce likely from day one. So that's kind of like the approach we took, was infrastructure, revenue. And then the second year we're building out food growth and all of that. Third year will be like animals and kind of all the final touches. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at now. And then this year we're doing more of our workshops. So basically all we're doing now this year is, we were hosting retreats and stuff last year and letting other people do it. But this year we really wanted to focus like what makes the biggest impact. If I let people host retreats, that is impactful. People are coming, they're having healing experiences, and that's really good. I really believe in that stuff, and it's helped me a lot. But if I run my workshops and teach more people how to create these spaces, then it's exponentially more people that can host retreats, go to retreats, do all of that stuff. So we've really focused our entire thing around education now, where all we're hosting is our workshops, teaching about what we're doing, and everything else, the time is going into building out the online course and helping get people into these things so that more people can get out there and create the stuff. Because truly, I believe like every person should be doing this. Like, a lot of people at our workshops are like, don't you worry that like we're going to steal your business? And I'm like, dude, I don't give a shit. Like, if every one of you guys gets this going, I'll be happy, because like every single person can be living like this and would be better off living like this, in my opinion. So we're really like, I think, I mean, and not that everybody wants to, like, I don't think my market's the entire world, because there's a lot of people that don't want to live like this, but I believe for everybody that wants it, it's possible, and that they should be doing that, and it's more beneficial to everyone in the planet. So it's kind of where we're at with it.
Beautiful. For the audience, can you paint a picture of what your space looks like the acreage, the location, everything else?
Yeah, totally. So one of the aspects of this project is not only like, it's not just big land. It's kind of like we've always been pretty creative guys, and it's kind of like, how can we take something that would be normally deemed kind of like in a way useless or not ideal for what we're doing, and utilize that to make something great. So our property is we're kind of in like the Okanagan area of BC, which is like Canada's somewhat desert area. So we're just outside of that, but our elevation's high. So we're high elevation, about 1,200 meters. And our property is not flat by any means. It's basically like, if you look at it as a square, the bottom left corner where you enter is decently flat with a pond, and that's where we started. So we have our 5 Airbnb wall tents there. We have a little community area with 2 shipping containers, a roof over them, and the deck between. We've got an outdoor kitchen in there. We've got solar panels, pump house, well, a washroom house, and a spa area. And then if you go up towards the other side of the property, it's basically like rolling hills and like some plateaus. And then there's a big steep like mountaintop that's on our property as well. So, and it's a lot of rocky stuff. So if you were like a standard agriculture farmer that wanted to go out there and just grow corn, like this would be a terrible place to do it. And that's why the land was cheap though too, right? Like we only paid $250,000, whereas if you wanted to buy an orchard, right in the Okanagan to have a winery, like you're paying way, way more than that. So our goal was like, how can we buy something that's insanely affordable and do something that you wouldn't normally be able to do there? So like, yeah, if you want to grow all year, you're going to have to dig your greenhouse 4 feet into the ground and put geothermal in. But our idea was that if you can take something and make it cash flow fast and then use that as an engine to keep building it out, you don't need that money up front. Whereas like everybody looks at these projects and goes like, I'm going to need 10 mil, but like, yeah, sure, you might by the time you're done. But if you start and you can get it to cash flow, and then because like technically putting a greenhouse in the ground and all of that is more money and time. But if you don't have a property, you can't afford a property to put one right on the ground where the temperature is perfect, then you just have nothing anyways. So either you buy something and get it to cash flow so you can keep moving forward and do what you need to do, or you just have nothing and you keep doing the same shit you're doing. So our idea was finding things that are really affordable for people and then learning how to create those spaces into something usable as well. So that's pretty much, and our big fight up there is actually water and forest fire. So we have like a crazy earthworks plan of doing like 15 ponds and big fire break and like natural fire suppressant stuff. So that'll be really cool once it gets going. But again, like every property, every off-grid property will have its downsides and upsides. It just depends where you are. Unfortunately, our down's forest fires, but other people's will be having too much water or landslides or whatever. It just totally depends where you are. So yeah, that's the property as an overview though. I don't know if you guys have any more questions about it or any specifics.
I have tons of questions, but Tanner, do you have a question top of mind?
No, just like logistical things, but I know we have like 10 minutes left or so, so I wanted to also make sure that we covered to purpose things related to it. Unless you have something, Phil, you can go ahead and ask something.
Just one more quick one. I'm curious how you made it initially appealing for Airbnb guests. Like you have this land and you're building these small little spots. So what made this appealing for Airbnb people to get your revenue to where it got to?
So what we teach in the course is basically wow factors. It's just like what's something cool that's going to make someone come there. For us, that was the outdoor spa stuff. So we bought these big wine barrel saunas from local Okanagan wineries, and then I cut doors into them and built a door, and then I built wood stoves and made them into saunas, into wood burning saunas. So that cost us about, I don't know, I'd say about $4,000 to make one. And we put a private spa with a little cold plunge tub and a shower. And honestly, like to lay out that 30,000 revenue, we get one wall tent and it had a private sauna, a cold plunge tub, and an outdoor shower. All we did was build like a wood structure with a big water tote on top, and you would just open the thing and it would just pour water all over you. Like that was literally the shower. And then we had 2 more wall tents up, and those had nothing. Like they had no spa, no sauna. They were just a wall tent with beds. And the way we did 30,000 was we rented the one wall tent out that was finished with the private spa whenever there wasn't retreats. And then most weekends we would book retreats. So it was really a solid mix between retreats and Airbnb, because we were only Airbnb-ing one at about $200 a night. And then we were also doing Hip Camp, which is a really cool app if you look that up. I would have started with that. If I were to go and do this again, you would make a campsite. I would just start with a campsite and wow factors. Like I would have just made a little communal spa area with a couple saunas and whatever else, and an outdoor kitchen. And then on Hip Camp, you just make a couple campsites. People come in, and then you can upsell them straight on the app. Like you want spa access, it's $40 a night. You want kitchen access, it's $25 a night. So like, to give a really quick example, we put that wall tent together in that space, probably cost us $30,000 for the one tent. By the time we bought the tent, built the platform, outfitted it, and did the spa, to rent for $200 a night. But if I would have done Hip Camp and just put a spa in right away, I probably could have spent $15,000 on like a really nice spa, maybe $20,000, and then I could have done a cheap outdoor kitchen for like $3,000. and then you could have had 5 sites, and people were averagely spending like anywhere from $100 to $120 a night just camping. But you could have 5 of those using the same thing, whereas I spent $30,000 to make $200 a night off of one thing. Right. So we started to realize this shit real fast. Like, oh man, I think we messed up. Like I could have totally started simpler and just worked my way up. And I think it's just the off-grid thing itself. So like, yeah, I mean, I think you do need a wow factor like a sauna or a cold plunge or something. I think to get people to drive all the way out there to just a flat piece of grass is tough. I mean, it's cool that we have the mountaintop so you can hike it in the mornings. We have some really epic lookout points and stuff like that. But for the most part, people just drive out for 1 or 2 days. They'll hit the sauna, they'll get up, make some breakfast, they'll hike up to the lookout and come back down. And that's pretty much it. They just chill and like hang out. It's really like, I think people think you need way more than you do to get people to just come out and enjoy a good experience.
For sure. That makes sense. So you didn't build any infrastructure, no like septic tanks, definitely no sewer, no electrical grid, things like that.
No, power is all solar. So our solar system was about 15 grand. I can get way better stuff for cheaper now, but it's just depends what you want to do, man. Like even that, like day one, I would have just, there's some really cool stuff that's portable now. We could have just bought a more portable solar battery pack with a few panels and just like got going with that. We use incineration toilets. So they're propane and they burn everything to an ash. You empty it like, I don't know, every couple weeks maybe. It's just like a little bowl, like looks like a dog food bowl. You just pull it out from under the toilet, dump the ash out, put it back in. It's more sanitary than anything else. You can literally just put it into your compost or whatever. So we really wanted to get around all that shit. Like we weren't going out there to build like a city with that kind of stuff. It's also like the impacts on the land. Like sewage isn't good for that. So there's a lot of things that we had looked through for loopholes. Like that's another thing we're really big on, is finding loopholes of like how can you create this space without like, we don't want to have inspectors and health people and all that kind of
shit. No like city regulations, no rezoning, no nothing like that. You didn't have to do it.
So our property is no zoning, which is really cool. You can pretty much do whatever you want. They can't even give you a business license on the property because there's no zoning for it. Like it's not like your ALR and you can get farm business. It's not like your commercial and you get a business license. Like they're like, I can't even give you one. So we run our whole business basically just through Airbnb and those, because really it's like our house. We're just selling access to our home. Like that's all it kind of is. It's just a bit of a larger model of Airbnb, I guess. But yeah, the infrastructure, like we're really into like trying to figure out the off-grid stuff. And like our big thing was keeping things mobile. Like if you want to change it or move it or whatever, like putting sewage and stuff in is so much money and so permanent. Just doesn't always make a lot of sense. There's so much other stuff you can do. So we really were like looking for all of that to find out the easiest ways to do that. And to me, sewage is just like a lost cause. Like you buy sewage and you put it in. Well, like if you fail or you leave or so, like you can't sell that. You can't sell your sewage system and pull it out of the ground. If we were buying incineration toilets, well, worst case, we can just take all this shit with us or we can sell it or whatever. So we were, since it was such a testing phase and that's kind of how we do things. Yeah, we really were like, let's just like, I could basically go to my property today and pull everything off and stick it in the shipping containers we have and just go to another place. There's only one water line that's in the ground right now that's 200 feet long that I probably wouldn't pull up. But other than that, everything else is just like, you could just take it and go.
And so for water, what are you doing? You're pulling it from like the main housing structure there? How does
you have a well? So the first year we had like a little spring on the property by our pond. It had like, it's an old wooden well box someone put in. We were just using a sump pump in that. And then the end of last year, we had a well drilled. So we installed a pump in that. So right now, this year we built our well house. And so we've got a pump, pressure tank, the whole system that pressurizes the community area with the shipping container, which now has like hot water on demand, outdoor shower, dishwasher, sink, and washing machine, which is really cool. So that's what we're doing for water. And then we don't have water anywhere else. Like there's no water ran to the tents or anything. Like we had initially thought about doing that, but then once we got out there, I was like, there's no way. Like this would cost so much money, be so much infrastructure, and it just doesn't add that value. Like if they want water, you go to the community area, you fill your water bottle up. you want to wash dishes or do anything, it's all there. You want to shower, it's there. Everything is in that communal area. There's a couple of hose taps and stuff. So the pump house is like right in our garden space too. So all our watering systems, like the water is actually much more important for your growth of food and everything than it is actually for like yourself or your personal use, in my opinion. Like we really place it around like irrigating plants and food growth and stuff versus like making guests comfortable per se.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah.
Cool. And then in your course, you teach people how to build these saunas in the kitchen and all that, or would we have to be handy to figure it out?
So my brother and I had a big strategy meeting about what the hell we're going to do with this place in the coming years. And our most recent meeting, we really like have shifted to eventually. Yeah. Like I personally think that's where the big lack is actually teaching these skills. So I can teach you strategy. I can tell you how to get money. I can tell you how to share your vision. I can tell you where to spend the money and get going. But a lot of it is you also needing to get creative and having skills and learning how to do this stuff yourself and build things. Like the reason it worked out well for us is because if something happens, we find a solution right away, or we get really creative and just see something, go, yeah, I can make something out of that. So, we've been struggling with that, and like, hey, like how do we get people these like for sure physical skills? So next year, instead of Airbnb, we're going to be doing paid internships. So instead of coming to stay on the property and just sit there and drink wine or whatever, if you're coming to the only way that you'll be coming to our land is if you're going to work there. So you'll be paying, you'll come for a week, you get fed and everything, but you work with us for an entire week and you learn all the things that we're doing. And then we'll be hosting our workshops as well. So that's a really good way to learn some of the stuff. It's still mainly strategy based. It's impossible for me to teach you physical skills in a weekend. It's just not a thing. So we've talked about in the coming years, probably not next year, but the year after, we'll be starting to develop like 1 week courses where it's like, you want to come and learn how to use the sawmill and build stuff. We'll do a 1 week log building workshop. We'll do a 1 week equipment workshop where I teach you how to run excavators, bobcats, skidders, like whatever it is. We'll do a 1 week. We'll do a bunch of different ones on permaculture. We'll do infrastructure building, how to make a sauna. We'll do all sorts of stuff. And then what we would envision that in the future, we likely would have like even maybe our own program. Like if you're not familiar with permaculture, you can look it up, but it's kind of like an emerging thing, but it's still so new that I always joke to Jamie and I'm just like, I think we just need to make our own program where like it's our own certification, it's our own thing, because even with permaculture, yeah, you're learning how to grow food, but you're not learning how to like get out there and create something for yourself. Like you go and take one of those courses, and if you're lucky, someone will let you learn, work on their farm for $15 an hour. Whereas like we would just be incorporating in that to an overall vision of like how to actually get out there and create this entire thing for yourself from day one and be able to do that. So I just think it'll be a lot different. It's going to be, you're not just going to learn one thing, you're kind of learning like the whole thing. Like my goal would be that if someone came and did a full program with us for 2 to 3 months, that they would feel like really comfortable to go out and buy a piece of property and get going and like build something for themselves. Like I don't think you need a lot more than that. So yeah, we're hoping we can bridge that, because I mean, it's impossible to teach those skills online, right? I can put videos and shit like that all day, but the real way is you got to be there in person and just do it.
Yeah. Wow, man. Yeah, that's super cool. I guess has your sense of purpose evolved since you are now so all in on this very alternative business?
Yeah, man, I just feel like it just comes back, like what I was saying before, where I just felt like people need to know the stuff I was figuring out. And like with food, I just felt like everyone was kind of left in the dark. I think it's just being like evolved on that, right? Like I'm just really inclined to share everything that we're doing, and we're just being really upfront about it. Like I'm not like we'd tell everybody like, hey, this is what we did, but this is like totally what I would do if I were to do it again. Like every time we're learning something, we're sharing it. And I just think sharing is like the ultimate thing that's important to do. If everybody was truly sharing their journey and what they were doing, so helpful for everybody. So the more I think about it, the more like we're just really big on sharing and teaching and educating. Like we just think that's so important right now. And I mean, yeah, there's education out there, but I just even the education just seems so fake to me. Like you go to school and you learn all these things. Every person I know that goes to school pretty much comes out and does nothing with it. Or they get some random half-ass job they don't even like. Like they don't go to school because it's purpose driven. They go to school because they think it's the right thing to do. So yeah, we want to keep this, like, I guess in a way it's just purposeful education. Like there's a reason behind it. There's, it's going to change your life. That's just a fact. Like it can't not. There's no way you can come out. I haven't had a single person that's come to our property and not said it's changed their life. Like it's impossible. There's no way you could come out there for a week and be like, nah, I don't give a shit, whatever. I'm just gonna go back to what I was doing. Like there's no way that it doesn't impact your life in some way. It just has to. So that's kind of just the goal, man. Keep going and scaling up the teaching, the education, and the sharing, and just stay purposeful with it, right? Like we are not. We're really doing the business for the people. Like another thing from the Hormozy, yeah, from Layla there, she posted a thing saying that you either start a business because you want to make an impact, you start it because you want a comfortable life. And my brother and I have been going so back and forth because we sacrifice so much for the business. Like, we pay ourselves $500 a week. That's pretty minimal. Like I'm just paying for food and chilling pretty much. That's it. I'm not making a ton of cash, and our revenue's pretty high right now. So, we're definitely not doing it for ourselves. Like the whole thing is we want to be making an impact and be able to create a space that's really good and educational for everybody else. So you can usually tell too with companies and people, like what their real goal is. If there's people walking around with like fat diamond chains and rings and Ferraris, they probably don't really give a shit about you that much or what they're doing. They're really doing the business for themselves and their own comfort versus the guys who are out there like us on the land every day, working in the business, talking to clients themselves, doing all this stuff. Those are the people who are usually really there for you and want to see you succeed.
Yeah, that's a great philosophy to have. I totally agree. Well, sweet. Phil, you have anything left to ask as we're wrapping up here?
Nothing to ask, man, but like I appreciate you and Jamie so much. You guys are such an inspiration, and I think what you're creating here and planting all these seeds within the individuals who come to your land is such an incredible thing. And you guys are definitely like pioneers in this space. I'm super grateful to know you guys and for what you guys are creating. I think it's really incredible.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's been awesome to stay in touch and be able to do this stuff together. And thanks you guys for having me out. It's really, yeah, it's awesome to be able to share and to chat. And yeah, man.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I learned a lot. I think your journey, especially what you're doing now, is really in line with where Phil and I went ahead. And it's really cool to have you as someone that can, pave the way forward for. I think there's a lot of people like us that want to figure out how to live more simply, to live closer to nature, to live in community with friends, to have transformational experiences that you facilitate or host or bring like facilitators and artists through. Yeah, really awesome that you guys are doing that. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, man, 100%. I think you're right. There's definitely a lot of people. It's big now. I think 5 years ago it might have been tough, but I think we're in the time where this is what's really needed. And yeah, it's going to be good. And hopefully we can have you guys out someday if you can ever make it here. We'd love to have you out or connect in person sometimes as well too. That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we're into that for sure.
Sweet.
Cool. Well, thanks for being on the show. You have any other things you want to say before we head off?
I don't know. I just think we get a lot of people through. I notice a big thing in most people's, they're just kind of scared to take the leap or put it kind of all on the line. And there's a lot of people in like insanely comfortable positions that have came to our workshops that are kind of like, oh, I've got this $1 million house. I'm thinking about selling it and then, trying to do something like this. I'm like, dude, you got $1 million, like, let's go. And I think my advice for people just be take the leap. Like, I don't know. Like, I think at any age, the most inspiring thing for me is seeing people make changes in their 50s, 60s, 70s when they quit the job they've had for 40 years and they go and do something that they want to do. I just really think it's never too late. Like, it doesn't matter how old you are, or what you're doing or how long you've been doing it for. I don't think that's a good reason to just keep doing it. I think it's like at any point, if you're not feeling good with what you're doing, just stop fucking doing it and take the risk and get out there and try what you actually want, see if you can make that work. Because chances are it's going to work.
For sure. For sure. Well, yeah, thank you so much for sharing your message today. It's really beautiful and inspirational. I'm excited for how can people connect with you as you have your course. What's the next step for someone?
Yeah, we've got, you can, I think, like, connecting with us through Instagram or checking out the website. We're right now, we're kind of in the middle of, like, we're rebranding the course to its own thing. Like, it won't be under the same name as the land, but it'll all be integrated. So we're just kind of rebuilding that. But the best way would be, check out our Instagram through Azhen Sanctuary or the website, azhensanctuary.com. And then if you reach out through any of those things, like, you'll be talking directly to me. So if you book a strategy call, it's with me right now, as we're building out the team and stuff. So yeah, the easiest way is to do that and book a call, and we can kind of go over where you're at and see if there's a way that we can help move you forward in your dream and your vision.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Shelby, for being on the show and sharing your wisdom. And I'm excited to when Phil and I can book our strategy call. I know we've had lots of thoughts as we look out at we have a 5-acre property, so it's nothing giant, but we can definitely do, a 5 dwelling retreat type of system here. Love to get focused on that soon.
Oh, 100%. It's definitely a better way to start. I mean, I would have started smaller as well than what we did, but yeah. So no, that's awesome, man. I'd love to do a call with you guys. And then, thanks for everything you're doing and for having me on and for getting this stuff out there. I think this stuff's so important, and having people that are doing what you're doing and sharing and talking and doing all that is so awesome, man. So thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.